Hello, everyone, and welcome to Sustainable Coal Conversations, a Coaltech podcast. And I'm delighted today to bring you our very first guest, Dr. Nandi Malumbazo, would shortly introduce herself. The idea behind the Sustainable Coal Conversations is to have meaningful discussions about the future of coal and the R&D and innovation work that needs to go into that space so that we can better assist the industry in navigating the ever-changing energy landscape. So to help us do that, we have invited Dr. Nandi, and briefly I'll ask her to just introduce herself. So Dr. Nandi Malumbazo, if you don't mind just introducing yourself to the listeners and viewers of Sustainable Coal Conversations.
Firstly, I would like to thank Coaltech for the opportunity given for me to actually be present or to be the first person to be interviewed for this podcast. And thank you for that. I really appreciate it. Dr. Nandi Malumbazo is a mother, is a daughter, is a sister. And Dr. Nandi Malumbazo was actually born and bred in Cape Town. So I actually, started in Cape Town from primary school, my intermediate phase, high school, as well as university. So I'm actually a Cape Townian. That's how I actually regard myself. But at the same time, I'm not only a Cape Townian, I'm also an Eastern Cape Townian, if there is such a word.
Okay.
Because in our days of late, I spend most of my time in the Eastern Cape as compared to Cape Town. Let me start from my childhood memories. I was raised by both my mother and my grandmother. Most of the time, I spend most of my time with my grandmother as compared to with my mother. I was raised in a family, if I can say, with limited male figures. So I was in a family that was dominated by females. And my mother was a domestic worker. At that time, yes, she was a domestic worker. And so I ended up then staying with my grandmother as compared to with my mother. I was a child that was very interested in academics, even in my growing up. I remember in my primary school what I actually used to do, because I'm a person who I don't have a pool of friends. So after school, then when I come back from school, I will then take a chalk from school and go to my backyard. And then you see on the concrete slabs, I'll actually pretend as if I'm the teacher. So I will actually pretend as if there are students that I'm actually teaching. And coming then from what I am today, and that's when I'm realizing, okay, fine. I've been meaning to be where I am, or where I am. It's what was destined to actually be in my life. And even in my primary years, even also in high school. So teachers would actually, because I had a clear handwriting, so instead of them then writing notes on the board, they would then ask me to actually do that. So I've always been then that person. I was not too much of a sport person, but then I was more into academics. So that's what I remember about me. And I'm really not that much of a social person. I'm a person that likes to keep it to myself. Yes. So I'm a senior lecturer at the School of Chemical and Metallurgical Engineering at Wits University. So I teach coal or clean coal technologies at Wits. I'm also a sessional lecturer at the Wits Business School at Africa Energy Leadership Center, whereby I actually teach energy policy and regulation. So that's what I actually do. So my interests are in both mining and energy. And yeah, I've always had an interest in applied research other than just basic theoretical research. Uh, in the country, okay, let me start from my introduction. How was I introduced to the coal sector? I did my MSc in organometallics chemistry, which was a SASOL funded project. But then when it comes to one thing that I loved about SASOL development programs or bursary programs is the fact that they link you with a mentor. So when you are doing your postgraduate studies, you actually have a mentor that is inside SASOL, a person that can guide you throughout your research career. So I had a mentor who then, when I was about to actually finish my MSc, who sat down with me to say, what do you want to do for PhD? And then I felt that if then I continued to do a PhD in organometallic chemistry, I'm actually going to be repeating my MSc project. And I did not see how then that was actually fitting up into what is currently happening in the country or into applied research. So I actually shared this with him. And my mentor was actually Arno Neveling, who's still working for SASOL. And then he actually showed me what SASOL's strategy going forward is, which was solely based on biomass as well as green or the environmental research project. But then my interest was more onto coal. And I really do not know why coal, but then my interest was more onto coal because I felt coal, it's sort of more applicable into our day-to-day, into the advancement of us as South Africans or of the South African community. So I then chose a project for my PhD, which was then a coal project, which was then being supervised by Professor Nicola Wagner. She was still at Wits by that time. So that's how then I was actually introduced into the world of coal and energy, because my project was not only on coal, but it was on coal gasification. And the gasification component of coal, it's the energy component. And then you have then coal mining, whereby then you are actually mining coal. So that's how I was actually introduced into both of those sectors. And then how then do I foresee these two actually being aligned is the fact that, as we know, that when it comes to the natural resources that we have in the country, which can actually bring about sustainable energy, the only resource that we have and also that we know and that we have been using for the longest time ever, it's coal. So when it comes to then coal mining and coal, remember coal is not only being utilized for energy generation. And when I'm mentioning energy generation, I'm not only talking about coal combustion, I'm talking about both combustion and gasification.
Okay.
Because you'd find that people, they tend to, when you talk about energy or the production of energy from coal, they only think about then the electricity component, and they forget about that we have a petrochemical component onto that, which is the gasification process. So there is a link between those two, because currently we actually produce, I think our electricity is actually being produced from coal. So I think it's almost 75% of our electricity being produced from coal in the country. Same goes with the petrochemical sector. We actually, the likes of Sasol, they actually produce their petrochemical products from coal itself. So the mining of coal and then the energy component of coal, those two, they actually go hand in hand. And with such then having that linkage, but then on the energy sector, and then also you also have another component of coal, or let me say coal application or industrial application, when it comes to then the metallurgical side, whereby coal is actually used to strengthen the steel, or it's used as an oxidant in the steel industry. And currently, as we are proceeding then to the decarbonization era, or to, it's decarbonization era that we're actually trying to transition to, there are some aspects then of coal that are actually irreplaceable when it comes to such. Yes, coal can be replaced when it comes to the combustion part. In essence, there are other various applications of coal other than your combustion and then your gasification. And as I've said, that coal can be used in the steel industry or in the steel making industry as an oxidant. And also in the fertilizer industry, coal can actually be used in that particular industry. These days, as women, we also buy facial masks, which are made out of a carbon, or they sometimes you will see on those masks, it's written charcoal facial mask. And coal is also increasingly being used now in our days in the dermatological industry, which is it can actually smoothens up your face. And this is also taking me back, whereby I was a student at Sasol when I went to actually do sampling in a mine, in a Sasol mine, and I came back being so dark and full of coal. My face was actually full of coal. But after washing my face was very smooth. And so there are various then applications as well as benefits of coal utilization. It's just that a majority of coal has only been used when it comes to then combustion and gasification. And I think now that the world is actually going towards decarbonization, or is actually taking another turn, we need to come up with different strategies as to what are other alternatives that we can actually use coal for other than combustion and gasification process. Okay, firstly, we need to understand that the word clean coal technologies does not only, because most of the time, most people, when you talk about clean coal technologies, they think about actually coal processing. Or yes, it's coal processing into a different product, but clean coal technologies or cleaning coal should actually start from the beneficiation process. So after mining, you need to clean up coal before that particular coal is being used in a particular process. If I can make an example, when you can mine your coal, and then if you can beneficiate your coal and not blend your coal, that means if you can wash your coal, then you can get a coal that has got less mineral matter or less ash in it. And that particular coal, if you can then take it into a combustion unit, that means that particular coal will have high efficiency in that combustion unit. And then when that particular coal has high efficiency, that means there will be less CO2 or there will be less greenhouse gases being produced from that particular process. So cleaning coal does not only start at a particular or in the middle of the value chain when you actually want to process your coal into energy. It should start immediately after the coal is being mined, meaning that's your beneficiation, the washing of the coal, so that at least you can get a cleaner coal out of such a washing process or beneficiation process. Before then, you can actually take that particular coal into your boiler or your gasifier.
Okay.
Then you'll then be able to get a coal that will actually produce lesser CO2 in it. Let's look, talking about then South Africa, if I'm correct.
Yeah.
When it comes to coal is actually being highly used in your electricity generation process. That's for South Africa. And then currently that also process, it's being regulated by policies. Currently there is an IRP, which is your integrated resource plan on electricity, which is it's still in its draft form, which was released early this year in January by the DMRE. And on that particular document or that policy, it states that Eskom will no longer or will not decommission some of the coal power plants that it had envisioned to decommission on the IRP, on the 2019 IRP. Currently, it is being proposed that some coal power plants should actually should not be decommissioned, but then the maintenance of such should actually be prioritized so that the continuation usage of such then can actually be sort of executed.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I think that is a viable option, more especially for the coal industry, because it guarantees then the coal industry that coal will actually still be used in South Africa for at least up until, because we really do not know what will occur after 2030. But currently we are sure that those, I think it's almost 8 coal power plants that were meant to be decommissioned up until 2030, they will not be decommissioned. So, and I'm aware that there are some countries, some of the BRIC countries that have been operating their coal power plants for almost 90 years now. For as long as the country is actually investing on maintaining and doing proper maintenance on the coal power plants. So I think that's the plan going forward when it comes to then the electricity sector of the coal industry. So I think there is some sort of guarantee, or at least there is some bit of a hope that coal will actually still be dominating in the electricity generation industry. So that's one aspect. And then, but at the same time, the coal industry should not actually be comfortable and do nothing, since then the country is actually planning to actually delay the decommissioning of the coal power plants. We should find alternative ways of utilizing coal in other sectors, meaning that it's not only the coal industry that is needed for this. It's, I think, the whole industry or the whole South African industry needs to be on board, because whatever types of products that can be generated or that can come from coal, there is an industry that needs to be an uptake for such products. So currently we're doing a research on critical minerals, which are the minerals of the future. Those are the minerals that will actually be needed for decarbonization or for the green economy. So some of those minerals in the country, we really do not have ore bodies for. So instead of us then not having ore bodies for some of or we don't have resources for some of those minerals, like for instance your rare earth elements. So when it comes to then other uses of coal, and we should look at alternative use of coal. For instance, currently we are actually, as a coal research or as academics in the coal research space, we're actually looking at the extraction, or it's called mapping, extraction and economic evaluation of critical minerals from coal. From my end, my project is being funded by Seriti, whereby we're looking at different coal discards from Seriti and try to map then what types of critical minerals are there in those coal discards. So, but then I'm not the only person that is currently conducting such a research. You have Professor Wegner at UJ. She's also looking at different coal fields, looking at ash as well as coal discards, to look at what types of critical raw materials or critical minerals can actually be extracted from such. So this is actually where then the coal industry is heading to. When you go to other countries outside South Africa, like your US, your India, your China, they are very advanced when it comes to this type of research, because they've been getting grant funding from their government, from the industry, so that they can then be able to understand as to the elemental and mineral composition of these coals, as well as the occurrence of these minerals from coal, as well as the occurrence of these minerals and how they are actually associated within coal itself. So that's actually where we're heading to now in South Africa. But this is still a new concept in the country, and also we need to convince the coal industry that yes, there is an industry that can actually be built on the extraction of critical minerals from coal itself. Yes, I think, yeah. It's my kids, it's my prayer, it's taking care of myself.
The kids' prayer,
Taking care of myself, my family,
family.
and my laptop.
Oh, yes, you need that.
And my laptop. So that actually shows you what type of a person I am. The laptop, I cannot live without my laptop, because I need to, as I'm a researcher, most of my time I spend it on my laptop.
Okay.
Yes, so that's one thing that I cannot live without. Because when it comes to having meetings, it's on my laptops, because most of the time I work from home. So online meetings, it's my laptop. When I want to connect with the world, let me say, I connect through then my laptop. So that's why then my laptop is actually number 5th. But before such, then my kids comes first. And my sense of being, then I find it through prayer and taking care of myself. I'm on LinkedIn only.
LinkedIn.
Yes.
And so we'll put your LinkedIn profile or details on YouTube, Spotify, and wherever else you get your podcast.
Yes.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.